I was working at a retail store called ShopCo, which is very similar to Target. And they had all around the store, there were little boxes of flyers where you could leave a review for an employee. But nobody ever got into these little boxes to like leave a review on their own. They were way up there. They were almost like you didn't even know what they were. So I just started taking the initiative as soon as I got hired. I was a cash register person because that's where you start. I started taking those little review slips out and actually trying to create a customer experience that was memorable first, and then I'd go way out of my way for someone, and then I'd say, hey, if you have a second, would you mind filling out this review? And I did it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and within 6 months, I got promoted to electronics because my manager brought me in and he said, never in the history of ShopCo have we ever had so many reviews on an employee. It's like, no one can even believe it. You have like 189 of these came in.
That's Ashley Parker Angel, O-Town heartthrob, 2-time Broadway lead, fitness influencer, and founder of High Level. Behind those baby blue eyes and Model-esque figure is a true marketing savant. Through the twists and turns of his entertainment journey, Ashley has managed to build a fitness brand that has steadily grown over his evolving career. Still connected to his humble beginnings, this gem will always be in your corner to cheer you on. The one-of-a-kind Ashley Parker Angel.
So if you could take us back to the very, very beginning of you starting your career out, and what was your first initial passions and your first decisions of, I think this is what I want to do, and then what were some of the milestones early on that got you in front of the crowd that you were looking to be in front of?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like they say, if you want to figure out your passion, go back to when you were just young and carefree. And what were you doing? And for me, it was like 3 things always. It was fitness, acting, and music. Essentially fitness and performing. And I was really lucky to have a mom that was a piano teacher. My dad taught me to play guitar at a young age. Music was just like built into my family. So that was just a part of my life. And got involved in theater in school at a young age, and was the kind of kid that was off in the woods, like making my own home videos with a camera, and just got basically really excited to create from a really young age. But it was just doing it for fun, really. And I'm from a small town, Redding, California, and I actually heard about an audition happening called Making the Band. And I borrowed $700 for a plane ticket to fly to Las Vegas because there were 9 cities, major U.S. cities, where the auditions were taking place. So just as a little bit of a background on what Making the Band was for people that may or may not know, Making the Band was the precursor television series that launched all these formatted music reality shows you see now, like The Voice, like American Idol, and I'll never forget, I was like last person in line at the audition that day. I was starving. I had nothing to eat. There was like 1,000 people there, and I was like the last person. It took like 10 hours to finally get in front of the judges, and they held me there all night long, and I found out I was a top 25 semifinalist. Fast forward to moving to Orlando, continued to go through the audition process, and ended up being selected to be part of the pop group that was formed on Making the Band, and Making the Band did 3 seasons and launched a pop group called O-Town, and we sold 10 million albums. And that was my big break into entertainment, which happened at 18 years old.
So let's hone in on like the moment that you went from somebody from Redding to not somebody from Redding, you know, like the moment that
Redding's a cool place, don't hate.
Yeah, no offense to people from Redding, but the moment that you went from somebody to Ashley Parker Angel.
And I was in the airport, and it was like the first episode had just come out, and I was a layover somewhere, and I was sitting in the chair at the terminal at the gate, and this girl was sitting next to me, and she was like kind of staring at me, and she goes, I like looked over because she was giving me these looks, and I could just feel her eyes burning through me. She's like, are you him? And I go, him? She goes, are you him from the show? And I go, from Making the Band? She goes, oh my God, you're him. And then she started freaking out. I was like, I'm him now. This is so weird. You turned into this product. It's like, it's weird how that happens, and all of a sudden you show up on TV and you're kind of this product all of a sudden. And that was overnight. That was definitely because of how manufactured, and it was cool. It was a very awesome concept for a show, but it was also very manufactured. So for us, it wasn't like O-Town was a garage band for 8 years trying to get signed. It was like, boom. In fact, it was the opposite. It was scrambling to try to get ready in time. And that was the excitement and the drama of making the band was, can these guys pull it off with almost no time? Just being basically put together on television was part of the drama of the show. And it did happen overnight.
Was Ashley Parker Angel from the get-go you, or was there like an identity that they constructed and said, okay, well, this is who Ashley Parker Angel is?
It's funny because with reality TV, people know there's a lot of it that is produced from behind the scenes. And I think as I watched making the band come together as a show, and they take these small little slivers of your life, they really do create a character out of a lot of the moments in your life that are very specific. So it's just a sliver of who you are, but you do get turned into this character because they have total power to decide what they're going to show about your personality. And I think that I just was so unaware of any of that I was just being my raw, honest, authentic self. So some of that's really painful for me to watch. It's like going back and watching like, you know, just these raw moments of your life and, you know, just tons of personal drama, but produced so well that when you're watching it about yourself, it's really kind of hard to go back and revisit sometimes because it's almost too much.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
But I remember one of the judges saying like, she was like, Ashley Angel. She was like, just based on his name, she's like, we have to pick him.
Wow.
And like, I think just because they were putting together, you know, it was from the creator, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. Lou Pearlman had these unbelievable superstar boy bands that he had put together. I was definitely, as a late 90s kid, like I was listening to Backstreet, I was listening to NSYNC. So I was definitely styling myself and I was doing everything I could to stand out. I went to Blockbuster Video because we had to send in an audition tape. I've always been the type of person to try to go above and beyond and think outside the box. So I was thinking, how could I stand out from the start? Well, I want my audition tape in a pile of brown tapes. I want mine to stand out. So I went to Blockbuster. I got the shell casing for a VHS tape, and I went to Kinko's and printed out all these pictures of me and made the insert like really colorful, a picture of me, my headshot on it, like so it would stand out. And later, one of the judges even told me, she was like, everything about your audition tape, she's like, it stood out from the start. She was like, you're one of the first people we wanted to pick for the audition in Vegas. So I think that like, I also, by the way, I slipped on a banana peel too. You know what I mean? Like it was also a great lucky break, you know, and you can't really control the outcome of those kinds of things, but you can put yourself out there in a big way.
Obviously, you from an early age kind of had an inherent concept of branding yourself without even probably knowing what that was. You knew what you should be doing. Like you knew how to put yourself out there. You knew how to represent yourself and like you knew what people are wanting and kind of gave them what they were looking for a little bit, right?
I think so. And thank you for saying that. I appreciate that because I think that there's a certain mindset that you have to create success. And I think a lot of it is just going all in and just thinking really creatively, because creatives always stand out. You know, I mean, like even when I was working at a retail store called ShopCo, which is very similar to Target. And they had all around the store, there were little boxes of flyers where you could leave a review for an employee. But nobody ever got into these little boxes to like leave a review on their own. They were way up there. They were almost like you didn't even know what they were. So I just started taking the initiative as soon as I got hired. I was a cash register person because that's where you start. But I wanted to make it into electronics. But people were like, you won't get into the electronics department unless you work here for like 5 years. So, you know, I was 16 at the time. I started taking those little review slips out and actually trying to create a customer experience that was memorable first. And then I'd go way out of my way for someone. And then I'd say, hey, if you have a second, would you mind filling out this review? And I did it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And within 6 months, I got promoted to electronics because my manager brought me in and he said, never in the history of ShopCo have we ever had so many reviews on an employee. It's like, no one can even believe it. You have like 189 of these came in. He's like, I don't know what you're doing, but this is phenomenal. We're promoting you right away. I just had thought to ask people to leave a review. But other people oftentimes don't think about that kind of stuff. I just think it's just about, honestly, it's just about thinking with a laser focus about how you can try to fast track your own success and staying focused on it. I just think a lot of people aren't really focused on goals, and there's just so much we get inundated with and get distracted by on a daily basis that it's easy to just slip into our comfort zones.
Absolutely. Wow, that's a really cool story. I feel like you definitely set yourself apart with that one. And so after O-Town in making the band, I know that it was an amazing, like, super quick opportunity. Probably didn't have a chance to even take it all in at first, right? I mean, it just happened to you, and then you were catapulted and like thrust in front of an audience and having to figure out who you were as a rising star. At what point in that process did you decide, okay, I may be going to move on to the next chapter of my life?
I think it's a great question. You guys ask great questions. I think I had always looked at making the band. I think I'd always looked at it as an opportunity for the next thing because of the style of show it was, because it was this unbelievably manufactured situation. I always felt like it would probably have a shelf life. And so I started right away, again, putting out what I wanted my next steps to be, and started asking, I want to get a Hollywood agent. I want to go out for TV. I want to go out for film. I just kept putting that out to the universe and talking about it with everyone. And turned out one of the directors of making the band, her roommate was, is it Mira Sorvino? She's an actress. I may be mispronouncing her name, but she was an actress and had a contact to a Hollywood agent. And they set that Hollywood agent up to come see O-Town perform, and I got hired. I mean, I basically hired an agent. He chose and selected me as a client at a really big Hollywood agency when I was like just turning 19. And I started going out for projects right away. I started booking some major movie roles that I had to turn down, which was really frustrating. And I often wonder...
Is it because you were under contract?
Yeah, I booked a big role in a Paramount Pictures movie, and I was ready to quit O-Town to do it. And my manager was like, they'll sue you. They won't let you have the time off. We have an album cycle we're promoting. There's no way you can do the film. And I always loved Mark Wahlberg. And so from day one, my goal was to try to segue out of pop music. People forget Mark Wahlberg was a rapper. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. And so... but that was, I often wonder if I had pulled a Zayn and left just even earlier. You know what I mean? Like, how long was One Direction around? Like, I feel like it was like an album, and then they broke up. But but I felt like it was frustrating because there was this amazing opportunity on the table, but it was also so all inclusive. Like, you couldn't do anything else, and I think I had a lot of aspirations outside of being in O-Town. So when the time came for that chapter to close, I feel like I was already kind of on to the next. And I moved to LA, and I got my own solo record deal on Universal. And because I got a record deal first, and there was an album in the works, MTV caught wind of it, brought me in for a meeting. And because making the band was always kind of a template for the success of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and Justin Timberlake had gone solo from NSYNC, they were like, we'd love to follow, since this was the TV version of all of that with O-Town, and now you're going solo, we want to follow your life in a TV show.
Yeah, solo act spinoff,
exactly. And so then I did that for that took about 2 years of my life.
Take us through like the next step or the next detour, if you will, from being a reality star to another passion.
So almost a decade of my life was spent as a recording artist, just exclusively. Although I had booked things in acting, my agent was like, you're the only person I've ever represented that's turned down like 3 movies. You know, what's up? You got to, either you're going to do this or not. So I started auditioning again because the music industry was changing. A lot of the record labels were all kind of in decline, and I could kind of see the writing on the wall with the industry itself. And I started really aggressively threw myself into my other passion, which was acting, got into acting class, started studying the craft really seriously, and then ended up getting an opportunity to audition for Hairspray, the musical on Broadway, for the role of Link Larkin, which is just crazy. It's crazy because Link Larkin is a young teen star, music star on a show called The Corny Collins Show. And it's just basically, it's exactly what I was on Making the Band.
Do you remember people following, like the fan base that you had from Making the Band and the fan base that carried through to your solo career? Do you remember like seeing that fan base in the crowd at Broadway?
It was and it was incredible because my fan base, having come from O-Town, is of course a huge boy band audience, and then I'm in Hairspray at the same time that Lance from NSYNC comes and plays Corny Collins. Whoa. So he's playing Corny Collins, which is like the Dick Clark American Bandstand character. I'm playing the young teen heartthrob character. You have a guy from NSYNC and a guy from O-Town in this Broadway show, and it became insanity. It just became, they were selling standing room only tickets, and it was, every show was literally packed to the walls. It was like a rock concert.
You were amazing. I got to see it. And it was, I think I was grinning ear to ear the entire performance because you would just come on stage and you would just light up the stage.
You.
It was so entertaining.
Thank you.
You are made for performing on Broadway.
Thank you.
And so I know that Hairspray was not your only Broadway performance or your Broadway opportunity. What did you do after that?
Yes, I got an opportunity shortly thereafter to audition for Fiyero, which is the lead in Wicked the musical.
No big deal.
Which, no big deal. Very big deal. I went to see Wicked on a night that I had lost my voice in Hairspray because I hadn't seen it. And I was floored. Because when you're in a Broadway show, it's really hard to go see other Broadway shows, but I had a night off. I'm like, I'm just going to sneak in and see it. And I had this moment where I was just sitting in my chair after Wicked ended, and I was just blown away because of the Wizard of Oz connections and the story that it tells. And without giving anything away, it's done so. There's a reason why they call it the blockbuster of Broadway, and there's a reason why it's the most commercially successful show of all time on Broadway. It's out-earned and outperformed every other show. And so I was like, that's the role. That's the role. I want to play that someday. And I think this is an important story to share, actually, for people, is that when I had moved back to LA, the first time I got the call to come audition, I made it down to the wire, and I had a lot going on in my life at the time. I was juggling a lot of different things, and I had felt like I had scrambled for that audition to prepare it, and it came down to me and one other guy, and I didn't book it. He got it, and I didn't.
You're saying for
Wicked. And that was the first time that I went up for the role. I had made it down to the wire, like it was between me and another guy, and he booked it. And I was like, man, I didn't know if that opportunity would ever come around again. Well, sure enough, a year later, because Broadway contracts are about a year long. So a year later, they come back to LA to do another round of auditions, and they're like, we want to see you again. And so this time, I was like, my competitive nature came out, because I'm like, I got down to the wire, but they didn't pick me. So this time, I hired an acting coach, which I had not done previously. I hired an acting coach to dive deeper into the scenes. I also practiced with a vocal coach on the music side, and I ended up spending maybe $300 or $400 to work with some performance coaches to invest in the audition first. And this time I went in with a completely different level of confidence in my preparation for the audition itself. I must have ran that thing 1,000 times before I got in there, which I love. And then Robert Downey Jr. tells a similar story about when he went in for Iron Man. And I love it because he's at the top of his game, and he's saying, I wanted Iron Man so bad I practiced it 1,000 times before my screen test. And I had that same mentality going into Wicked because I had not booked it the year previous. And then boom, that year I booked it. I got offered the role.
So you've had some incredible opportunities, and I would say that the takeaway is you had some grit. I mean, you were putting yourself out there, and you didn't let people determine your destiny or your fate, right? Because if somebody said no or a door was closed, you just kept going, and you kept going harder, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's that tenacity, determination,
Totally,
to be able to get to the place that you see yourself.
Yeah.
And then not be hurt or offended if you're or discouraged if you're not getting to where you want right away.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mark of a true entrepreneur, right? You have to be able to continue to keep going even if there's disappointment or whatever. So after the Broadway opportunities, what what made you decide to go in the direction that you are now with being an entrepreneur in the health and fitness kind of industry?
Yeah, that's a great.
It's a little.
Yeah,
it's a little.
It is
pivot.
little bit of a pivot
Yeah.
there, and it started very organically because, like I said, at a young age, it was like three things: it was fitness, acting, and music. And all through my entertainment career, I had hired like really expensive personal trainers, and I'd worked with a lot of like celebrity fitness coaches and people, and spent tons of money on pursuing the knowledge of fitness and nutrition for myself because I'm in entertainment and I'm a product. So I want to invest in myself that way. And having been bit by the fitness bug, it was just something I was constantly learning, constantly getting better at, and learning from some of the best people in the world. And I realized that as social media really started to take off, that would, of course, be the natural fit for what I would be talking about because it was organic and it was authentic to what I was doing in my lifestyle. My lifestyle was about meal prepping on the road. How do I fit the gym into this already hectic schedule? And so somewhere around 2014, I really started getting very serious about my social media. And it was on tour with Wicked where I really started. I had a tripod. I had a little remote, and I would just bring my I would bring my phone around everywhere and just take pictures constantly. I started doing these fitness challenges and was maybe even talking, while I was on Broadway, was maybe even talking about my fitness challenges even more than Broadway. Even though people knew I was doing Broadway at the time, I was doing 90 days of fitness challenges, and I was doing them over and over and over again, like 3 times a year. And it allowed my audience to really get this window into like what I'm passionate about. And a lot of them so many of them were asking me questions, and I started answering them. And I started realizing that this was the next chapter for me, which was building a health and wellness lifestyle brand, because it's what I've been into my whole life. Just hadn't had a chance to really, I think, craft what that was going to look like until that period of my life. And so I started using social media to really frame what that was going to be. And going back to that entrepreneurial spirit, I had worked for a supplement company for a few years when I was a teenager, and I've always believed in nutrition, and I've always believed in the power of supplements to make an impact in your life and to transform your life, especially in combination with fitness and nutrition. So I started a supplement company called High Level, and started with a custom product called Next Level Focus, which is an energy and focus product, and put it up on Amazon and started talking about it a lot through my social media and used it as a pre-workout and just started building some momentum in that direction and then getting incredible feedback. One girl had been addicted to Adderall for 15 years and used my product Next Level Focus to quit Adderall. Wow. And I would get stories and emails like this, like, oh my God, I can't tell you how much this has impacted and changed my life. And I just felt like this is the direction I want to go in even more. So over 3 or 4 years, during that chapter in Wicked, it was like Broadway during the day, go home at night to build my entrepreneurial, my dreams. Yeah, basically was using that to funnel. You basically was using the Broadway success to funnel everything that I was doing into building my own company, and built it from 1 product to 42 products during the time that I was on Broadway. And now we have 42 products up on Amazon. The store is amazon.com/high level. And it's been really, really satisfying and gratifying to build something from the ground up like this. But it also took a lot of people didn't understand why was I doing all this on social media. They didn't know that my plan was ultimately to launch a health and wellness and fitness company. People are like, why are you shirtless on Instagram like so much? And it's like they didn't get the bigger picture. It was that I'm building an audience here so that I can keep telling my story and I can grow my own company.
Do you feel like you were kind of a front runner in that? Or did you see other brands that had been doing it and you were like, ooh, I want to do that? Because I feel like when you talk to the people who've been doing it for a couple of years, it's kind of like, at what point did people realize that Instagram could be what it is?
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny how that happened. Yeah. Because YouTube came up before that, MySpace. Like we've had these like social media platforms that have come and went already. MySpace, my top 8 friends. Like what happened to that? It's gone. I loved your top 8 friends. You would have been in my top 8 friends. That was like such a compliment when you were in someone's top 8 friends. And now MySpace is just completely gone. And you have other platforms that have come and gone. But now you have the main 3, which I think are Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And a lot of people don't understand that like this is the new Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook is the new ABC, NBC, CBS. Like, this is the medium where people are going to consume. And we basically were walking around with these smartphones and these screens in our pockets all day long. And so more and more people are on these platforms than are even watching television. And I didn't want to be, I think just being a forward-looking person, I saw the power in that, and it was slow at first to try to build that traction, and at first it took a little while, but then I was just consistent at it, and I kept posting, and kept connecting with the audience of people that wanted to see that kind of content, and was able to actually, over several years, then get up to about 250,000 followers, which is a healthy following, and of course I want to grow it even more, but that really allowed me to lay the groundwork for my company High Level and launch a supplement company essentially off of my social media channel.
It's incredible that you've had that type of ingenuity from the beginning. I mean, from ShopCo days. Like, it's incredible to me that you were able to have that type of foresight into building into something. Because I think that oftentimes when people don't see results or they don't see the following growing or whatever, like they're not seeing immediate gratification, they're like, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. Yeah. And I feel like Instagram is a slow play. Like, it's one of those things where you have to invest years into creating valuable content for your audience and to nurture those relationships to be able to have an audience that is excited about what you're creating. And so I'm just in awe that you were able to do that, because I think that everyone is now getting wind of like, whoa, I mean, Instagram or YouTube or whatever, like you can do so much with it. But like the original people years ago who were able to see the power of that, like yourself, and use it for good, use it for something that was more than just like showing pictures of where you've been traveling.
Exactly. And I think
the business sense.
And to add to what you're saying, I started watching the landscape and I saw that social media influencers, people who were known now as influencers that previously didn't have television exposure, they didn't have they didn't have a song on the radio, like people didn't know who these people were other than they just became known as influencers, started actually amassing these huge followings that were even bigger than like A-list celebrities had. And I found that like the celebrity segment didn't even understand really how to even run a good social media site. And they were kind of like, oh, they post a picture every once in a while. They have this amazing entertainment career going. But then social media took off so much that people who were complete unknowns surpassed celebrities and actually started making incredible money because advertisers want to go where the following is. So then you had these young YouTube influencer kids making $10 million, $15 million a year. And when I saw that happen with YouTube, I didn't want to be late to the game on Instagram because I did feel I was late to the game on YouTube. I watched that happen, and I actually had a few people in my life that were like, hey, you should start a YouTube channel, and I slept on it. And now it's like you look back and you realize, oh, well, wow, if you had started a YouTube channel in 2008,
where would you be?
Right. And some of these kids were just making videos, like goofy videos, like jumping in a bathtub full of Cheerios or something, just like some ridiculous thing. But then they have unbelievable followings, and the advertisers want to pay them amazing amounts of money, and these kids are making millions. They're making more than like an A-list actor sometimes. It's just incredible how it changed the game.
I think people are wanting to see behind the curtain and the authenticity. And so I feel like to be able to put yourself out there and be authentic and figure out what it is that you want to share with people, I mean, now is a better time than ever in the history of the world to probably be able to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Because you can share with the sky's the limit when it comes to the online community. I mean, you don't have to just be talking to the people in where you live, like that area code. It's like you can find people all over the world who are passionate about what you're offering.
Exactly.
So I think it's really powerful.
Well, and it's not just sharing. It's also the fact that he was doing these challenges, right? You were doing these challenges to rope people in.
Excited.
Yeah. So it's not just I don't know, like check out the behind the scenes of my life. It's like you can play a part in this behind the scenes of my life and what I'm
And
doing.
we can do it together.
We can do it together.
Yeah.
When did one-on-one coaching become part of the service or become part of the business that you were constructing? The 10-year plan, as you put it, that nobody really knew what was going on when you were posting pictures without your shirt on.
Yeah, exactly.
When did coaching become a part of that?
Did it happen to you, or did you know that was something that you wanted to offer?
Well, I've been really lucky to work with a lot of like just amazing vocal coaches, amazing acting teachers, like people that were performance coaches and people who are at the top of their game. And I've always felt that no matter where you're at in your game, you can benefit from having a mentor or a coach. And so along the journey of fitness, I had discovered online coaching, and I hired my own online coach several years ago and absolutely loved it in comparison to the old model of going to the gym and hiring the in-person trainer, because you get a lot more for it. And so just because I'm so passionate about it, and I spent 15 years now studying fitness and nutrition and building my own company, part of that felt like a calling for me to actually open up to my audience and say, like, let's start working together one-on-one and help you get the results that you want. And ultimately, it's a completely different way for me to connect with my audience, right? Before they were just viewers and maybe following along at home in their own challenge. Now they have a chance to work with me one-on-one as their online coach. And that's another reason why it's changed the game. Social media, you can find experts in any field. You can find experts in marketing, experts in branding. If you want to learn fitness knowledge, get in shape. Now you can work with these coaches from all over the globe, and you have access to expert minds, and you don't have the barriers of like, oh, I've got to just find the local person at the LA Fitness. And I'm not knocking that person whatsoever, but I got very, very excited about connecting with my audience on a personal level like that and diving even deeper, because my mom's a teacher. My brother is a nuclear physics professor.
Whoa.
No big deal.
No big deal. My brother was a nuclear physics professor. And
I like to think I got some of those genes.
You definitely did. You definitely did. For those of you that don't know, that's my brother. That's your dad.
Yep.
And love my brother Taylor. And I just come from a family of people who are teachers and have that inherently in them. And I think because I've been surrounded by people like that, it was the next logical step for me.
So did that happen before or after the supplements?
So that happened sort of alongside it. Alongside it. But I needed to, I've taken it kind of in stages, because I also want to be I just want to be able to execute all the things that I'm doing with integrity, and I don't want to spread myself too thin. So I'm very exclusive about who I take on, because as of right now, it is just me. It's not some huge company of people. But it has allowed me to continue building my supplement company, which is a lot of work. And it allowed me, online coaching really allowed me to just continue diving deeper into the world of health and wellness and building that lifestyle brand. And now being able to actually show off the results that other people are getting, like helping people lose 25, 30 pounds and having them tell these stories like, oh my God, when I met Ashley, like I didn't know what I was doing, and now I've had this unbelievable transformation in my life. That's the juice that gets me excited, and I love helping other people reach their goals. And so I think for me, like lifestyle coaching and just life coaching in general is probably a direction that I will continue to head. And I've just basically started in fitness and nutrition since I've had 15 years of experience at it.
So is that underneath the umbrella of High Level?
Yeah.
Or is that underneath the umbrella of Ashley Parker Angel?
No, that's actually High Level. So we have High Level Supplements, and then we have High Level Performance Academy. And it's the same company. And essentially it has been, like I said, it's been a phenomenal experience, like meeting people, because now people that have perhaps followed maybe some people didn't follow my career, but I know from my audience, which is really engaged, they've loved that I've opened up this aspect of my life, because now you get a chance to work with someone you've followed through the years, and you've been able to see in the past 5 years what I've done in my fitness results. And so it's been really exciting to help other people just take the guesswork out of all of it for them. And it created a system that really is an accountability system, and it's essentially life coaching in the world of fitness and nutrition. But having a daily accountability partner and motivating people like that is just, I've always loved all the great motivational coaches, and pretty much every book I read is a motivational book of some kind. So I just live, eat, and breathe this stuff, and I just love that I'm getting now a chance to do it like professionally.
And impact lives.
Yeah, and impact lives,
It's
exactly.
incredible. Well, I think that in your kind of profession, I mean, originally as an actor or performer, you are pretty reliant on other people to give you that break, right? And you've had great opportunities.
Totally.
But for somebody, I mean, who hasn't been in that field or didn't have those opportunities, what would you recommend, or what would your words of wisdom be if they're just trying to get into social media because they have a passion and they want to share something with their audience? I mean, starting out now, what would your tips be?
Just to get started.
Mr. Coach, life coach over here.
Just really to get started and not judge the initial results.
First draft.
Yeah, never judge the first draft. The first time you do anything, the first podcast you do, the first painting you do, the first script you write, the first song you write. It's not usually going to be great. It's usually the opposite. It's probably not going to be that great. You have to just get started, and you can't look at your likes and go, oh, I'm not getting the likes I want, and get discouraged. You have to be the type of person that wakes up the next day and posts again and again and again and again, and just hold on to that vision and keep going. It's really all about that stick-to-itiveness, that grit, and just you'll get better at it as you go along and honing what your story is going to be, using hashtags to connect with the other audience out there, searching for that same subject matter so you can find your audience and connect with them. I think the biggest takeaway is just to actually be willing to go all in for the bigger picture, because so many people, and even in fitness, you see this, people want a result they go 2-3 weeks and they're like, I don't see it yet, and they throw in the towel. And that's not the mindset for success in anything, whether it's fitness or building a business or launching a career. It's just not. You have to really be willing to go all in and not judge the results right away, and just fall in love with the process of what you're doing. Fall in love with the process, love the journey, disconnect a little bit from the destination at first, and just get going, and don't stop. And eventually you'll get that momentum, but it does take, to initially get that momentum, it does take a stick-to-itiveness, and I'm not going to lie. There are going to be days when you're posting and you're like, and everyone has this. Sometimes I have I could write a great caption and I've got a great picture. And I'm like, it didn't hit. It didn't get it didn't get the engagement I thought. You just have to start again fresh the next day and just keep going. Just keep going.
Mm. And so the landscape, I know a lot of people are feeling frustrated with Instagram because it's so crowded, or they feel like the algorithm, the people are talking about all the changes. Do you feel like it's still, there's still opportunity for people at this point in the game to start out? Or do you think that it's something that if you didn't get in, then you should probably try doing something different? You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. And I think it's all about how you look at it, right? Because the fact that there's more people on Instagram, that means there's more of an audience there to connect with. So it's really all about how you look at it. And I don't want to be too semantics, glass half empty or half full, but truthfully, all of success comes down to your mindset. It does. And if you look at any true great success story, there's going to be so much failure. You have to get very comfortable with failure and get comfortable with losing, because that means you're one step closer to that win. But it does take a larger vision of knowing, okay, this is a several year plan for me, and I'm going to go all in to build it. Just too many people throw in the towel too soon.
So do you feel like that's what sets somebody apart? Is that drive and the determination to just keep going?
Yes.
Or are there other things that you think people can do to set themselves apart? When you're offering a health and fitness program, it seems like, so many other people could be offering that same thing. How do you feel like you've set yourself apart, and how would you recommend other people to do that?
That's a great question, because I think my fear was also too, having come from entertainment and having been really known more for being a singer and having been an actor on Broadway, my concern was will people follow this jump to this other thing? And that's why I started talking about it so much first, because marketing is all about, you buy from someone that you like and that you know and that you trust, and to actually create that connection with your prospective client or whoever's following, you have to really tell that story first. So I just focused on telling the story for a long time before I offered it professionally as a service, because I felt I wanted to come at it from a place of integrity and authenticity. So I did have this other career going on Broadway, and I really was very busy with that. But I knew that if I told the story, and I started back in 2014, fast forward to now, almost 5 years later, I would be in a position where I would be someone that people know, like, and trust when it comes to fitness and nutrition, because primarily, and people would be like, you're in a Broadway show and all you talk about is fitness. Like, you go to your Instagram, you wouldn't even know you're on Broadway. And I'm on Broadway with people who have worked their whole lives to be on Broadway. And it wasn't that I didn't love Broadway. It was just that I looked at it as, again, a stepping stone to another vision that I had for myself. So you just have to create that vision for yourself, and you have to be the type of person that believes in it and just is unwilling to be thrown off course. And there's been times where, a month or maybe went by and I wasn't as good as I wanted to. My struggle was being on tour, being on Wicked, 8 shows a week. It was really hard to create content.
It's a lot.
It was really hard to try to do both. But
it's a full-time job. Social media is a full-time job.
Yeah,
basically,
exactly. Yeah. But a lot of people just aren't willing to make a lot of those sacrifices. And a lot of people aren't willing to, I'll be honest, I didn't have a social life on Broadway. People were like, Ashley's a great guy, but you'll never see him outside the theater, ever. And most of the cast parties I wouldn't go to. And it wasn't because I didn't want to have fun and hang out with my friends on Broadway. It's because I was trying to build a social media following, and people don't understand that it does take a lot of time and effort, and you have to approach it like a job. You have to build it into your to-do list when you're going to create your content, where you're going to write your captions. You have to really kind of make it your hustle, and you can't be thrown off course. So
high level, what's next?
So I think that 2020 for me, and I love the sound of that year because it's a whole new decade, it's a whole new chapter. It's just about leaning into it even further. I think that your life is defined by the quality of questions you ask yourself. And I've been trying to do this routine where every Sunday I sit with my journal and I say, what could be better? And I answer that question, what could get better? And, I'm a really big believer in incrementally improving yourself by at least 1% a week. Daily, it would be great because that compounds upon itself over time. But just constant and never-ending improvement, trying to just get even better about all the things that we talked about. Social media, building high-level supplements and high-level performance academy, going in the lifestyle coaching direction, just continuing to go all in on it and just get better at all of it. I think that I try to approach all of this with a great degree of humility, because even though I'm sharing with the audience things that have worked for me, I'm still learning. I'm trying to be a constant student to all these things. And like I said earlier, it doesn't matter where you're at in your game. You can benefit from having a teacher, a coach, a guide, especially if it's an area where you're not familiar with. So companies out there that are watching this that might be interested in getting into social media and they're not, hire an expert. It's really important to understand social media is the power tool of the future. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook are the new network television. It's the new ABC, CBS, and NBC. So if you want your business to be successful, you really need to be on these channels. And ultimately, I'm excited to just to keep going this direction.
We are so excited to be able to continue to follow along on your journey. So how can other people find you on social media so they can follow along as well? And maybe if they're interested, seek out some services if they're wanting some fitness help or encouragement?
Yes. So search my name, Ashley Parker Angel. It'll come up on all platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm super excited to get even deeper into everything I started these last few years. So if you're somebody out there that's looking for fitness and nutrition advice, if you're just like, I don't know, I've got those stubborn 10 pounds I want to lose, or it's 2020 and I want to really make a physique transformation and get in the best shape of my life, you can go to my Instagram bio, click on the link, and there's a one-on-one coaching application that you can fill out. And that's how you can contact me if you're looking for fitness and nutrition guidance. And I appreciate you guys having me on. I really enjoyed this conversation, and you guys are really great. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Ashley.
We love you.
Hey, thanks for listening. Don't be a stranger. Hit the subscribe button and let us know how you enjoyed the episode in a rating on the podcast app or in the comments below if you're watching. And remember, you're one of a kind.